Hey folks, it's Jeff Walker, and I have Sebastian Knight here for a case study. I've gotten to know Sebastian over the last few years, and he's doing some really cool stuff, and I know you're going to get a lot out of this. So first of all, Sebastian's from France, and in fact, he's got a great...
So excuse me for that.
He's got a great story about the Eiffel Tower, I think hopefully we'll get to. And he's done launches in more than one market, and he's been doing this for a while. So you originally bought Product Launch Formula 2,
yeah.
So that was a few years ago, and take us forward from there. What happened?
So I had at the time a very small business where I did personal coaching for people who were shy, because that was my problem a while before. So I basically, that's what you would call dating advice. Okay. I would help people get over their frustrations and anxiety. And
specifically men?
Yeah, men. Okay. I would help men that would not be able to talk to a woman. I would get them to be able to take numbers, have dates, and get the love of their life. And I did workshops at the time. But the thing is, my goal in life was to make about €3,000 in euros. That would be less than $4,000 a month. That would be enough to pay for all of my expenses and everything. And at the time that I bought PLF, I was just a bit over that, because I had discovered marketing, and I was making maybe $6,000 a month. And then I bought PLF, and I said, okay, I need to bring this to the next level and see what happens. The fun thing is, I bought PLF2, but I did not use PLF2 at the time, because there was a booklet that you gave as a bonus, like the previous version, the very first version of PLF. And when I got the book, I got so busy reading it, and I think that's things that you now have in the PDF transcripts, but I got so busy reading the book that I didn't even have the time to log in and check all of the videos. So I had like 25% or 20% of the whole thing, but I started doing the launch. And since I was not very, let's say, certain of myself, I was like trying to take baby steps into the process. I did the first launch. It took me 4 months pre-launch. So basically, every time I would talk about one of my workshops, I would say, hey, by the way, I'm still working on this thing that's coming up. And then I would give people a PDF or a video about that, but I was afraid to release it to the world. So
you're not the first person. I mean, I've been there, you know. Yeah.
I was a bit holding back on launching it, and I had heard at the time of launch in the US, where they had 17,000 people on their list when they did the launch, and it was a major thing that was that really impacted their industry. And when I bought PLF, I had something like a few thousand, maybe less than a few thousand people on my list, maybe 2,000 or 3,000. So I said, okay, if I want to launch this thing, I have to have this huge, humongous list so I can actually make sales. So I started buying a lot of leads to build the list. And it turned out it was not such a good idea, because I lost a lot of money in AdWords and stuff like that. But the list was not 17,000 when I launched. I don't know what it was, but it was not 70,000 people. But the fun thing is, because the list was growing, and I was mailing out of my own server, I was actually having all of the time problems within the launch.
Right.
So that didn't remove from the stress.
Yeah, just getting your emails delivered, and getting,
that was something so that's when
not recommended.
Not recommended. Sending from your own website, not recommended.
Yes.
But when I did the launch, it was in July, right before I was heading for vacation. I said, okay, I have to get this thing rolling. So I said, okay, I'm going to take sales. So I told people 1 week from now it's coming. I did a few videos. And all the time, I found out that I was making mistakes, obvious mistakes, because even as a beginner, I was like, okay, shouldn't have done that. Obvious mistakes, but people were so thrilled that I was trying to help them and show content that they would excuse me for whatever mistake there was. I did a live webinar on Ustream where people can see your face and you can chat with them. And I had a friend as a moderator, and somebody started spamming in the chat. So I told my friend to kick the guy out. He did the wrong clicks. So I was kicked out of the chat, and the spammer got upgraded to admin.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I was kicked out. I could not log back in, either from either of my computers because I had the only one IP. So I could not log back in to tell people log out. So I never knew whatever happened on that webinar. That was pre-launch. And I was like, okay, we're gonna still try and get this thing out and see how it works. And then on D-Day, when I opened, it absolutely blew my mind. The numbers were, I did 16,000 euros on the first day, which is about $20,000 to $25,000. Mm-hmm. And the whole launch was 25,000 euros, so that would be 40,000. Yeah. So I was like, wow, that was more money than all of the year before.
Right.
Because I was at 6,000 when I bought PLF, and then I came back to my normal volume of 3,000 and something before the launch. Mm-hmm. So the launch was crazy. And then, that's when I had this special idea of doing a seminar in the Eiffel Tower that you mentioned earlier, because there was seminars included in the product that I was saying.
So if they bought it, they got the product plus they got
live seminars. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But actually, it was supposed to be live workshops because I was expecting a small number of people. But because of the number of buyers, it turned into live seminars. So I was like, okay, I need to find a bigger room than the one I used to have that has like 8 seats. So I was with a friend on holidays, and he said, yeah, you should do something really big, like rent the Eiffel Tower or something. And I was like, rent the Eiffel Tower? I wonder if that's possible. So I Googled it, and I found out that you can actually rent the first floor of the Eiffel Tower to do seminars and events. So
I'm sure it's very reasonably priced.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. The thing is, it cost me for that about the same as the cash that I had on the first day of the launch. The thing is, thanks to the launch, I had then other sales coming in for the months after that. So I still had cash flow coming in. But it cost me a fortune to do that.
Sometimes you just have to do really cool stuff, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and I imagine in the long run, you've gotten a lot of mileage out of.
Yeah, in the long run, it was a great idea. And in the short run, it sounded like an awesome idea. It's only when I hired an assistant for the first time that she said, when I hired her, that was a few weeks after the Eiffel Tower event, and she said, okay, if I had been in the business before, you would never have rented that place. Because she was doing the accounting and books and something like that. And she said, wow, that was a wild thing to do. But it was actually very good because of the launch, I got media attention. So while I was doing the launch, I had a few phone calls from journalists and people that were interested in the thing. So I was able to use one of these interviews, phone interviews with a guy from a newspaper. I told him at the beginning of the interview, can I record it? Because I think the guys on my list might ask the same questions that you wonder about that topic. So he interviewed me on the phone, I recorded it, and I released it as basically a piece of the pre-launch content. And then I found out that a little bit of media attention could help you get more media attention. So the seminar that took place at the Eiffel Tower, we got newspaper coverage, we got television coverage for that. And I said, this is cool. So I need to keep doing that. So I spent the next year and a half, 2 years, every time trying to keep the media interested in things. And most of the time it was during the launches that it was easiest to get attention because the launch is an event, so you can just say, hey, there's something going on, come and check it out, and they would be glad to interview. And it really helped to build the credibility because back in the days prior doing the launch, I was not very known in my marketplace. This is France, so we are like 5 to 10 years behind the US in terms of any market growing.
Like internet.
Yeah, even the internet marketing and everything. So basically it was groundbreaking to have somebody give something free up front before trying to get the money. So that helped a lot.
So circling back to the beginning, it's a remarkable story. It's amazing that like you're able to do a year's worth of revenue. I mean, it's almost like you went out into the future and pulled this year's worth of money into your business. But you know, you've heard me talk about what I call the product launch parachute, and that's the idea where you can make mistakes. You don't have to get everything right. You know, obviously the Ustream where not the best situation. No. And but you know, I've personally never had a perfect launch, and I don't anticipate ever having a perfect launch. You've heard me talk about this too. Because there's a lot of moving parts, and the beauty is you can really afford to mess up and make mistakes on a large percentage of it, and just if you get the fundamentals right, which you obviously did, it'll still do really well. And also, you said you only went through 20-25% of the course. Yeah. And still,
at that time. Yeah. But the thing is, after the first launch, I was like, maybe I need to to get more of this stuff. So so that's when I decided to go through all of the rest of the course, and I found out some things that I had not understood, and that was the reason why I made some of the mistakes. But what I really wanted to do when I first started was to implement and get some results and see. So when my mind was blown out by the results, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go really deeper into it and try to master the process.
Yeah, and you've done a great job. I mean, you really got. I mean, and after that first launch, you continue to do more launches in the whole dating advice market. Built that market, built your list,
and I actually launched a lot of other products. So I was doing just coaching at the beginning, and then seminars, because the workshops turned into seminars because of the people. So I said, I'm going to tape the seminars and sell the DVDs to that. So we started doing DVDs, and then a while ago we found out that if people were getting DVDs, seminars, coaching, whatever, the only thing missing was a book. So I said, I'm going to write a book. And I wrote the book. It was a short one, 120 pages, something like that. It was self-published, and I put it on Amazon. And I said, okay, I'm going to launch this thing on my birthday. So my birthday is the 29th of March. I'm going to launch this thing the 29th of March.
Okay, so now everyone, you know when to send Sebastian a birthday card.
Yeah.
Or on Facebook, you know, send him a note on March 29th.
I will be happy to get it. So I launched the book, and it went up to the number 2 position on Amazon France when the book got out.
Wow.
And that was when things started getting crazy, because from the book, people who bought it would buy additional other things. And then in my marketplace, it became like the center of attention. Because there were a lot of ebooks and stuff like that and I think in the US it's the same now. Tons and tons of ebooks on how to date a woman, how to get a number or whatever. But a real physical book from a guy in that topic to get that high in the results, that got some tremendous attention, and it opened a lot of doors. So I sensed an opportunity to start another section of the business, to help other people try to increase their own success in business. And I had one blogger, some guy that I knew and that now is a friend. And this guy said, okay, I have this blog. And his blog was on business books, business and self-help books. And he said, I have this blog. I have an audience of people who come back. I have no product. I'm making $300 a month. And I'd like to work with you to try to make a product, launch it, and get some sales out of it. So
And he'd seen you basically your success, what you had been doing. Your the book, it's obvious. You're boom, he's number 2, and all of Amazon for France. So he sees your success and comes to you and says.
Because he said, because basically I had started with a blog at the very beginning. My business was started out of a blog where I was telling my stories of how I was trying to overcome my anxiety and my shyness. So he said, if you started all of this out of a blog by launching different things, maybe I can do the same. So what I did is I took your advice that was in one of your programs on how to help other people, whether it be clients or competitors, how to help them do their launches. And at the beginning, he had no list. So it was like November 21st, no list, just his daily traffic to the blog. And I said, wow, you might want to put an opt-in form somewhere on the blog. So we had an article.
The first stroke of genius.
The idea was, okay, a list of 0 is
not good.
Not good. So
we can do better. We can improve.
I said, there's no way we can do worse. So that's the good news. So let's see what we can do with it. So he posted an article saying, hey, I just did this this podcast on how the 7 ways to do XYZ. So just give me your email below and I will send it by email. And then he added a form on the blog. So that's the first thing he did to build the list. We surveyed the people on the blog to say, what do you want to know? Because it was a general self-help blog. It talked about lots of things, how to overcome shyness, how to get fitter, how to start a business, how to get organized. So he had no clue what people wanted. And it turned out that because all of the things he shared on his blog was based on reading books, he had a really educated audience. And the number one thing that people said is, I want to start a business or a side business, but I procrastinate too much. So what we decided to do is try to do a program not on how to build a business, not on how to make more money, but just how to overcome procrastination, very specialized, how to overcome procrastination when you want to start your own business. Like this really tiny segment of the market. And the list grew over 1 month pre-launch to 300, a bit over 300 people. And at the beginning, this guy, because he was my client now, he said, okay, I want to pay you up front. And he wanted to do a weekly podcast type of product. But at the beginning, it was like a general idea. Every week I would talk about a book in a podcast. And I said, okay, these people want something specific. Maybe you want to deliver specific results and build your content to deliver that result. And that's what he did. It was like a course now on how to overcome procrastination, become better organized, find JVs or people that can help you, because a lot of these people were like brick and mortar would-be wannabe businesses. Right? So we launched it in December, right before the December holidays, and it did 20,800 euros, which would be almost $30,000 in that launch.
Wow. And he had been making $300.
Yeah, he had been making 300 before. Yeah.
And had a list of 0.
Yeah.
And
it go to
October
300.
21st to
November 21st to December 21st. Yeah. In
so
a month.
A month.
In a month.
Oh.
So the list go to 300 people.
He must have been pretty happy.
Yeah.
300 people, and that. Oh my gosh.
and people paid in installments, in 7 installments. So basically the 21K were 3,000 a month for 7 months. So he went for 300 to 3,000. And what was really nice about that is, first of all, he said, I want to work again with you on the next launch. And that's why I realized that I was spending some time working on his launch, and that the things that I was doing with him, working with him on his business, might interest other people. Mm-hmm. So we did his second launch in March with JVs, and it was really easy to find JV partners because he had results. He could say, okay, we pulled this amount of sales out of 300 people. So that was a really good motivation. And at the time in our market, affiliation programs and JV programs would be like, sell my $17 book for $17 and get like $5 commission, mm-hmm. or even get $10 commission. So when he came out and he said, okay, I'm going to pay out 25% on a product that's $100 a month because he raised the price. Mm-hmm. It was like a no-brainer for anybody to say, okay, even if I make less sales there's more opportunity to promote this product. So he did this, and the thing is, during the launch, we got to meet one of the guys that were like a player, impossible to touch in the marketing space in France. And this guy has been in business for 10 years. He was the only guy that was over 7 figures in the market. So mm-hmm. It was the dream joint venture partner. Right. And the thing is, when we reached out to him, he said, okay, I've seen what you guys are doing. I think it's fun. So I might want to be a part of it. So he promoted to a part of his list. And he was actually at the top JV of the launch, like mm-hmm. hands down. But the thing is, because we had the first little launch done, it helped the guy decide that he wanted to get along.
Gave him faith that you had something that was going to convert.
Yeah. So the launch went well, the pre-launch went well, and then on the Monday we launched the thing. We have the early birds coming in at maybe 10, I don't remember the time, it was early in the morning, maybe 9 a.m. And then we open up sales at around 11 a.m. But everybody mails at the same time. We mail at the same time, the JVs mail at the same time, because we released the email to the JVs 5 minutes before sending out the launch email. So now all of the people are coming to the page at exactly the same minute. And it's not the most robust server ever that we had. Mm-hmm. So now here's the funny part, and the thing that I did not let my client get away with, and I still joke about this. It's a bitter joke, but I still joke about it. His business, before starting his blog, is that he has a tech support company. And the server that we had our website on was a tiny part of a server that hosted some pretty big companies' websites too. Like we were hosting one of the major automobile companies in France, mm-hmm. had some of their websites on that server too. Mm-hmm. So the server went down, and these guys' websites also went down. The server went down, and my client is calling his employees saying, we need to get this thing back up. And they are the tech support company. It's not like you call your ISP or your right. host service and say, get this fixed. It's like, it's your own server. They have it, they own it, and they are the guys, the experts. And they could not get the thing back up. It's like, the server would get back up for a few minutes and then go back down, which is worse because people get to the page and then they try to pay, and then the server is already back down, so they cannot see the order page. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of trouble out of that. Mainly, we are at that time, we have made a bunch of sales early in the morning, like it's almost a 6-figure launch already. But now the server is down for hours, and
wow. Wow.
And we have been on hours of sleep deprivation
Wow.
for doing, because that's a takeaway. Do not write the sales letter on the night before the launch day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah.
I made that mistake. Yeah.
I did not do it anymore after that, because since I had spent all the night writing the sales letter, I was really not able to cope with it.
Right. Your creativity is gone. Even
Yeah.
if you're awake, you just.
Yeah, my mind was shut down.
Yep.
So the good thing was there was the community of other people that had gone through PLF, and that I had their contact and emails and stuff like that. So I started emailing back and forth saying, okay, we've got this problem. What would you do in that case? Because my mind is out of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And we managed to turn it back, because somebody said, okay, Sebastian, you have this media thing going on. Maybe you can pull something out of your hat. And actually, we did pull something out of our hat, because the launch had somebody interested in the radio, in a major radio in France, was interested by the launch. But since we were going through it, we did not have time to return the calls, plan things.
Right.
But now we had time, because the server was down. So on Monday, the server was down. On Tuesday, this person, she was a woman, interviews my client for an hour and a half on his launch. Like, what is it? How do you help people and stuff like that? And he has customers from the first launch calling in.
Talking about how awesome.
Yeah, talking about how awesome the course is. So for an hour and a half, there are, this station has 100,000 listeners at peak time for this emission. And we have that many people live listening to the radio, but then we have the MP3, and we release the MP3 to the list while the launch is still closed, because we need to reopen. And this really helped, because we were afraid that we would lose credibility over having the server crash.
Right.
Because people think server crash means this is a server crash. Yeah, it's you're putting a tactic on them that's to say, yeah, there are too many people, hurry up. And we had a hard time convincing certain people that we are not stupid enough to shut down our own server on launch day, right? But the radio interview helped a lot, and then it got the credibility back. So the launch was over 6 figures in euros, so maybe 150,000 in dollars, and then my client was in the light now, and in the spotlight. And what was really cool is I got the bragging rights to say, hey, I did this for him.
He had a blog that was doing $300. He had no list. Now he's done 2 launches. He's gotten major media exposure. He's done €100,000 launch. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing. After that, it's snowballed into helping a few other people in different niches, because I had other friends that said, hey, I also have a blog, I also have a website. There was one guy, he was, because I used to be a salsa teacher, he was one of my salsa students a few years ago, and he said, okay, I have a blog on salsa, I want to launch a salsa course, but he wasn't not good enough to teach the course. So what was really impressive is the videos on his blog were YouTube videos. The content of the product were, he went out to salsa teachers and say, hey, would you mind just showing us a move? I want to put it in my product. And he had people creating content for the product. And then he bundled it into a 3-week course. And he launched it. But the fun thing is, the way he found out about how to launch the thing was, I was working on a launch. I had the PLF mind map where you explain on the quick launch and stuff like that, what to do, what are the steps. And I had this on the computer. So it took notes as I was going through the mind maps. He took notes of what to do to his list. So basically, I talked with him for an hour when he had the structure down, but the guy just from this PDF had all of the structure, what to do, the recipe, what to do to launch the thing. And the product was pretty high priced for his market. It was 75 euros, not extremely high priced, but in salsa dancing, if anybody is a salsa dancer, they know that you can get any salsa DVD for maybe $10 or $5, and they are the best teachers in the world, but they don't know how to market their courses. So these guys have their DVDs that don't sell, but it's like the competition is $5, and he was launching for 75. So he had to get people involved in the launch before, and he pulled $3,000 on the first launch, which was amazing to him because the guy was pretty struggling, and then $3,000.
And that's
after
€3
in euros, yeah. So that would be 4 to 5.
Yeah.
And that was pretty amazing, given that pre-launch was one video where he asked me to teach one salsa move in order to get the opt-ins for the pre-launch, and then just all email. And then basically he took that sequence and he rerun it a while later, and he did 5,000 euros, so $7,000. And then so he just had the sequence. Now he has the sequence and he just reruns it. Wow. Because there are new people on the list, or people that were not ready to buy on the first time that are ready to buy on the second time. So at that time I said, okay, maybe I need to do something to create a course, because I'm spending time helping these guys individually doing their launches. So I created the online class, and I did not want to focus on one tactic or just launches. So I said, okay, what I'm going to take is my experience of getting the media exposure, writing the page, the structure and stuff like that. So I created a marketing course and I launched it to the French space. But the fun thing is, from the launches that I had done from the blogger guy, I had all of the contacts in that market.
In the marketing market.
In the marketing
because
market.
this was self-help, and it was self-help on how
self-help and how to start a business.
Procrastination to start a business.
So all of the business guys had promoted for his launch, so they knew about our relationship. And the fun thing is, some of those guys, some of the big guys, they said they were not promoting because they had seen me doing his launch. They were promoting because they had seen the dating advice business move up. Right. So what was impressive to me is that even outside of my own circle of the dating advice businesses, there were other guys watching what was happening.
Right.
Interesting. And that was impressive.
Yeah, I mean, there's this whole, it's an amazing journey of going from, having this blog about dating advice to then doing some launches in dating advice, then doing this launch for someone else on the self-help business-ish stuff, and then the salsa dancing, and all of this in France. So this isn't just, this is all, what's that? That's 3 different markets right there, and then you graduated, or I don't know if that's the right word, but then you moved into teaching marketing. So it's 4 different markets. And I think there's probably some more that you've been involved in. Those. And you've seen this work across all these markets. And of course, there's some people here in the U.S. That think it only works in the U.S. Or there's a lot of people around the world that say that it only works in the U.S.
Yeah. And the thing that struck me is, when I first launched my product, the internet marketing space in France is a bit special, because people in France are not as used to buying online. So the truth is, when I launched my first online thing, I hadn't myself bought anything online. The first time I sold my first workshop online, I was still having a friend buy things for me and then cutting a check to them because I was afraid to put my own credit card online. So I was like the epitome of how the French people, some of them are still scared of being online. So that was amazing to see that, because we had all of this pre-launch process, and I have had customers telling me that they were not confident with the whole buying something on the internet process. Mm-hmm. But because of the pre-launch content in all of these markets, we were able to project to people, hey, I'm a real person, you've seen me, even if it's just a short video, because the rest of the launch is email. But just to say, hey, I'm a real person, you can email back to me, I will answer on the blog, or I will survey you on any survey service. Just that gives people enough confidence to say, okay, my money is not going out to the cyberspace and disappearing. Yeah. So that was a big thing.
So across all these markets and all these launches you've done, what's one of the biggest takeaways in terms of launching, in terms of getting results?
I've had some mistakes in my own launches, and I've seen launches where I have been called at the last hour to like try to save the day. Save the day. I've had a friend launch a product, and for the first launch day he made one sale, and he said, okay, what's the problem? And when we fixed it, he made 20 sales in the same amount of time. And the thing is, there are 5 things, and I have them on like a checklist to make sure that I never make. There are just 5 mistakes that can be done in a launch, in my opinion, because people don't care if you're messed up in an email or messed up a link, or if the video is slow to download. That's not the problem. To me, like the 5 things I've identified so far are if a launch doesn't work out, look at the offer. Is the offer clear? Is it clearly stated? You're gonna get this for this price. You're gonna get it in this fashion, online or physical product, and you're gonna pay in this fashion. If that's clear, that's the first thing. Second thing is the offer what they wanted? Because you cannot. It's really hard to fail when you've asked people what they want and you've given them what they want. It's like no-brainer. But sometimes I've seen people try to sell what they want to sell. And I've seen in the French space the guy has a blog on finance, and he wants to sell a product on the Zen mindset. Doesn't work that good. Because it's like there's a disconnect between what people wanted and what they sell. The third thing is the offer really irresistible? Like, is it a lot of value for a small price? And what I've been always pushing for is like, I want to give 4 times the value for whatever I ask, being the price. And I think I've learned that from seeing the way you structured, when I first bought PLF, seeing the way you structured the PLF offer. And I was like, can this be worth the amount I'm paying for my business? Yes. Can this be worth 2 or 3 or 4 times later to my business? And it was worth it, so that's why I bought. So I said, maybe I should do the same thing when I'm offering a product. And the other thing is, the other major mistake is there a congruency throughout the launch? Because, and there's a funny story, I don't know if I can talk about that, a story of a failed launch. Sure. Because when I launched my marketing strategy product in the French market, I had a few months later, like 2 months later, one of the big guys in that market with a pretty large list launched a product by copying my launch sequence. It was like, okay.
Stole your...
Pretty much the same thing, like the JV emails, because I was on the JV list. So the JV emails, you could put them side by side, and it's exactly the same thing. The bold and italics and the dashes and everything is the same in the JV emails, and the promotions, the video scripts are pretty much the same. The sales video was the same script, like word for word, same script, because you had a prompter, so you can actually do word for word, same script. Right. Changing like the product name,
his name,
the price, and removing the guarantee on top of that. But other than that, the whole thing was just a Xerox copy of what I had done. And the guy had a huge list, and on launch day he made 0 sales. And I think he made 1 sale in the night between launch day and the next day. Before I realized, because I was doing a seminar at the time, and when I come back home and I look at the sales video, and I'm like, I've heard this before. It's like, I recognize the word before. I've said it before. So I'm like, okay, there's a problem. So I had the thing shut down. But the reason, in my opinion, why it didn't work is because there was no sincerity in the launch. It's like if you see a chocolate cake and you don't know the recipe and you're not a cook, you can maybe do something that looks like a chocolate cake out of platter and paint and stuff like that. It can look the same, but since you don't have the formula, the recipe to do it, you're not gonna get the same taste to it. Mm-hmm. And so that's, for me, that's a biggie. It's like I'm not trying to copy paste other launches that I've seen. It's like trying to actually get a relationship with the people that are going to experience the launch. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, what do they want? And then being genuine in that relationship, because that's a big part of it. People, when they are going through a launch as the prospect, they're like, okay, can I trust this person? Is this really made for in order to help me, or is this made in order to make a buck? Mm-hmm. And I think people have a BS detector that goes off Absolutely. Big time when they sense that you're not doing this to help them, you're doing this to get the money. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that would be a big one, and I think that's that's it. And like the word you used was the congruity. I think that's the word you used, and they can sense that. They, when you're talking in video, even when you're writing an email, there's a lot of communication that's going on that people are reading sort of between the lines, and they pick that stuff up, and it makes all the difference in the world. And that's why your words spoken by someone else who it didn't come through. Yeah, that's an amazing story. Well, Sebastian, thanks for spending the time. It is just so fun and so amazing to listen to your journey and the progression. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And so now you've got a business. I imagine I got 2 of them. Yeah, you're probably not running other people's launches anymore because it's just your business. They're going great. So you've got this dating advice business where you're helping out guys, helping the world, helping people have relationships, and then you're also helping people build their businesses by teaching them how to market online, how to get media exposure, and you're doing all this in France, all this in French. I've seen your videos. You look good at them. I can't tell what you're saying, but yeah, they look good. So thanks for sharing. Any final last words? Well, I'm the one to thank you actually, and first of all because of the formula, the product formula, and second of all because of the mindset that I had after going through the course and doing the first launches. Now, whenever I'm trying to sell something, like it was the same for the book or DVD, whatever the product is, I always try to think, okay, how can I add more value upfront so that people are like happy to give the money because they say, okay, I'm going to get even more value out of it. So even when I have a very short lead time, and that happens sometimes when you forget that you had a contract that you had this that needs to go out on Saturday and it's Friday morning, and you're like, okay, I need to sell this tomorrow. I always try to send some value up front and to get people involved in the process before trying to pitch them something. Mm-hmm. So that made a tremendous difference in my income and in my life, my personal life, and the ones of my customers, my clients. So that's the thing that's most important for me. So thanks a lot for that. You're welcome. You're welcome. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. Love hearing that kind of stuff. So thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff.